Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks. This message is to tell you that the following episode of Beer with Geeks is a crossover episode with the Comic Book Kaiju podcast, and so the intro after the opening theme will be slightly different, but stick with us. It's a good episode, so please enjoy.
Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog in the animal.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints. Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Aw, yeah! It's time for another episode of the Comic Book Kaiju / Beer with Geeks. Today is a very special episode because we're doing a crossover event with one of my favorite podcasts in all of the podcasting multiverse, Beer with Geeks. And I have one half of the Geeks. Well, we got to get both halves at some point, but due to a baby being born and some other things, the other half is not here with us. But we have a half that goes back 12 years with me, a former host of the Gotham podcast with myself and Hunter Camp. It is not only father, but husband, English teacher, music director, co-host of Beer with Geeks, co-host of Academy Rewind. It is the one and only Timothy PG, Tim Gannon. Hello, sir.
Hello, Vactor. That was the nicest intro and even most encompassing intro I think I've ever had on a podcast before. Like, if
Tim
we go
Gannon
back
deserves.
years. Yeah. Yeah, I do not deserve. No, but it's thank you for having me. I am very excited to be on the Comic Book Kaiju podcast. Talking comic books, which is wild. I don't actually get to talk comic books on Beer with Geeks as much as I'd like to. So this is good. I'm excited.
Yes, and both you and Frank, I would say, are my number one DC guys, because most of my friends, I'll put it this way, are Marvel zombies from way back. Mm-hmm. And I have few DC heads, but you and Frank are the two that I turn to. And especially when I got snapped away, when Thanos took me out and I came back and I was
but
like,
you look great though, because those 5 years like, yeah.
When I came back in that hospital and Monica Rambeau was like, I saw her looking around, I said, I got to get back to podcasting. I got to get back to reading comics. But when I came back, Tim Gannon was the first person I went to. And I said, what is going on in comic books right now? And I also had a chat with you and Frank as well. So that has been very comforting to me as I've come back from the snap. So thank you for that, sir.
Well, I'm happy to provide a nice little service for you. No problem. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, Tim is one of the most knowledgeable DC Comics fans that I know. And I was just listening to the latest episode of Beer with Geeks, and you guys were talking about the Green Lantern, Beware My Power.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And there was some other DC talk on that episode as well. So very much enjoying that. If anyone is not checking out Beer with Geeks, you should 100%. All right, stop what you're doing right now. Stop listening to this. Stop watching this on YouTube and go listen to every single episode of Beer with Geeks. All right, are you done? All right, come back now. Okay, now thank you very much. Okay, so let's start off this show, Mr. Gannon, with some interesting news. Now, well, actually, you know what? Before we get to the interesting news, let's just say real quick, Joker 2, Folie à Deux, has a release date, October 4th, 2024. Now, I don't know if I ever talked to you about the first Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
I don't think we've ever talked about the first one together.
Yeah.
Did you like it? Is it a movie that you can like?
I liked it. I didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
My wife loved it. She watched it 6 times in the theater. I only saw it twice in the theater. She went and
6 times.
had to see it
6.
many times.
Yeah, 6 is good. I mean, that's fine. Yes. But yeah.
Also, my wife is a Joker fanatic. I don't know if I ever told you that.
No, I did not know that about her.
Yes, so she, even before I met her, she had Joker paraphernalia when I met her. Also, Darth Vader. So she's kind of a villain.
She's got a dark
fan.
side. She's got a villain fan.
Yes.
Yeah, good for her. Yeah.
So she loved Joker 1. And that her love also kind of translated where I think I enjoyed it more because of her enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked it, but I didn't love it. But what say you, sir? What did you think about Joker?
I liked it a lot. I think I liked it for the kind of like it's I don't know, like chutzpah, like it like dared to tell this story almost, and I thought like everyone really brought like a high level of achievement to the movie, and I said, wow, that was really powerful. I will never ever watch that again, and that's kind of where I left it. Like it was kind of like a Clockwork Orange or something like that, where like I know it's well made, and I'm so very uncomfortable, and I never need to experience that again, unless I'm feeling like I'm feeling like a self-masochist or anything like that. But
yeah.
So, but the news of the second one weirdly excited me. Like, I was like, I don't know why, because I felt like that was a story that was told. It doesn't need to go any further. Like, that was it. Right. That's all I needed. But there's something about the title mixed with knowing that it's got a musical component mixed with Lady Gaga, and those are the things that I'm like, I need to see what you're doing. I'm just interested now.
Yeah, I'm the same way where, like I said, musical, that's automatically like gets my spider sense tingling. What is this? What is going to be the makeup of this movie? What is going to be the DNA, the essence of it? So I'm interested to see what they pull together. Same director, same cast for the most part. I'm interested, but 2024, that's 2 years away.
I know.
That's Avengers Kang Dynasty.
Oh, is that really? Oh, when you put it like that, that feels like forever. That feels like a forever wait. Because when I saw 2024, I was like, well, that makes sense. I mean, obviously it's not, you don't pump out a movie in a year really anymore. Not something on this scope and scale with 2 stars that obviously have busy schedules. And so like that alone, like kind of pushes everything back a bit. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does seem also far when you put it in the Kang Dynasty like box.
Slight correction. Kang Dynasty is 2025, but that's still a long way.
That's still a long way away. Yeah. But you know what? Like it doesn't mean summer 2024. It could be a year and a half. Maybe it's coming out in January or something. We don't know.
Yeah.
So no, wait. Did they have it's an October release date?
Yes, October. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that's a long time away. That's almost yeah. I retract my statement.
While we wait, I actually forgot. I should have started this right because this is Beer with Kaiju. So I wanted to tell Tim Gannon I don't drink alcohol, but for this episode specifically, I brought a root beer.
That's an amazing beer to have on Beer with Geeks. And I, honest to God, I think you're the first person in hundreds of episodes, a bunch of guests, Frank and I almost every week to ever do this. So congratulations. You get an award for that. Because Yay! It is Beer with Geeks, and I am using this episode. You can tell you finish yours, and I'll actually say what I do have as a beer. Because yes. I'm obligated under our contractual agreements to actually drink a beer.
Although this is the finest mug root beer, I will have to say I enjoy A&W root beer more. It is my root beer of choice, but unfortunately, the gas station that I went to was out, so I said, let me grab this mug root beer. But I am also a root beer connoisseur, so that's
really did not know that. I also prefer A&W. It is a superior root beer. I agree. Mug's good though. It's not bad, and you got it in your beer stein too. Like it's real beer. You're the best.
I had to break out all the stops for Tim Gannon. I said this has to be a proper beer with Geeks episode.
This is better than Beer with Geeks because you broke the system but made it better. Like it's even better. I am drinking a Save the Sound light lager from the Stony Creek Brewery. I was in Mystic, Connecticut a couple weeks ago. Took a family vacation. Went to the aquarium. My daughter and my niece and my nephew all love baby beluga, so like we went to go see the actual baby beluga.
Oh wow!
So that they have there, yeah, it was very cool. It was very, very fun. So I picked up some local beer while I was there because that's the only way to get it. And this one, actually goes a bit towards the Long Island Sound, but everything the Stony Creek Brewery partnered with a conservation effort to help clean up and fight climate change.
Nice.
So I feel like I am contributing to saving the planet by drinking this beer. I don't know how it works exactly, but I gave the money. That's fine.
Tim Gannon is a superhero in my eyes, in more ways than one.
That's so kind. That's so kind of you.
So let's get to our big news of the week, Mr. Gannon. And I wanted to get you on specifically to talk about, because like I said, you are the DC master. This week, DC/Warner Brothers decided the upcoming Batgirl movie that we were all anticipating and looking forward to. Hey, what's that Batgirl movie going to be like? They said, nope, we're not going to give it to you. We're going to take it off the release schedule, and it will not be on HBO Max. It will not be in theaters. So I don't know if we will ever see this movie in our lifetimes, Tim Gannon. After they filmed it, they were finished. They were in post-production, and they said, all right, let's just throw it on the shelf. It's not even worth putting it on the streaming service. What was running through your mind when you saw this news?
I honestly thought it was a joke because the news was it came out from the New York Post first. I was like, that's not real news. That has to be fake. What does the Post think they're doing? Like they're like our regular actual equivalent to the Daily Bugle. So I'm like, is that real news that you're putting out? And so when like other people like Variety and Hollywood Reporter were actually putting it out there, I was like, oh man, like come on. I understand that like Warner Brothers Discovery needs to like hunker down and save money, and because they've not been, they've not had a great market share, and so they're like, this is a good tax write-off. And I'm like, from a business point, it maybe saves people's jobs, and like when you look at it in a weird way. So like I understand that, but also just as a fan, I'm like, that's rude. Like it's a stupid decision because Babs is finally like, you're finally giving her the spotlight. A member of the Bat family that's not Batman is finally like getting their own movie that's not Halle Berry's Catwoman. and plus it would have been the second return of Michael Keaton as Batman and J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, and I wanted to see all of that. And now I will see literally none of it. I will see none of that. And I won't even see Brendan Fraser as a DC villain. Like, that to me is very upsetting. Like Edinburgh as Gotham, what an awesome filming location. What a great idea. Won't see that either. Like, that's just upsetting that, in a world where we are actually inundated with comic book properties, like I don't have the time to watch them all. Like now I actually have to pick and choose. And I've said before, like we grew up in the era of like, well, if you didn't watch David Hasselhoff's Nick Fury on Fox, then you might not get anything ever again. Yeah. So you better watch it. That's what we grew up with. So, so the fact that they can just cancel something like this and just be like, whatever, let's move on. Be like, what else are you canceling? Well, like, what else am I never gonna? What I feel like I'll never see. It just feels defeatist, and I hate it.
Yeah, and this was something that now I don't know your thoughts on Bad Boys for Life, but the directors of Bad Boys for Life and then a few episodes of Miss Marvel, I thought they actually did a great job. And I'm going to probably butcher these names. Adil El Arbi and Bilal Filah were the directors, and we had Leslie Grace as Barbara Gordon. That's who I feel bad for is the cast and crew.
Me too.
As well as the fans.
Yep.
That they were done. They finished it. Like, it wasn't even like, oh, okay, we were in pre-production or we were halfway through or whatever it was. It was like they were done, and also the fact that they just said, oh yeah, you're just never going to see it. It's like, wait a minute, give me the chance to dislike it. Give me the,
right. I mean, heck, like just give me the unfinished version. Like whatever you have, just throw it out there. I'll watch that.
Yeah.
I know it won't count for anything, but at least I'll get to see the things that I wanted to see. Maybe.
Yeah. Did you see Kevin Feige reach out to the directors?
I did. I thought that was very nice of him, to just be like it. Actually, I know that Edgar Wright and James Gunn also reached out to them.
Nice.
And their messages were not made public, but the directors, when their little message said, like, thanks to these guys for their experience for reaching out. Because, obviously Edgar Wright worked a lot on Ant-Man, and that never went anywhere. And James Gunn has had a lot of start and stops over his career. And so it's, and they've obviously made it, right? They've continued to work and do big things and go on to even say better things. And so, it is kind of wild that like people's actual real livelihoods depend on movies getting made. Like Leslie Grace, she had a great coming out in The Heights, and I was really looking forward to her version of Babs because she was very good in The Heights. And now all right, now what? Yeah. Apparently it wasn't testing well though. So that's the other thing that we have is that it might not have been good, which is something that we're not really talking about. There's a possibility that it could have been very bad. It could have been a very bad movie, and and that could have actually ended up hurting people's careers. And so it doesn't necessarily mean it killed all of their momentum. Maybe it actually saved it. But we just don't know because we haven't seen it.
Right. Yeah, it's just very interesting because it's kind of unprecedented. I've never seen this happen before where the movie was done and everybody was looking like we already knew it was coming out or we were looking forward to it. And then they just kind of cut it off. So that to me was interesting. And then also they've now come out. I don't know if you saw this today with their 10-year plan. And it's very Marvel-esque where they're, trying to give the fans hope and trying to give them a runway of, hey, look this is what we're gonna give it to you. We're gonna give you all these titles.
I've seen that before. It's empty promises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to believe until we see something, until we actually get some good stuff. And a lot is riding on that Ezra Miller Flash movie.
Yep.
Which it looks like that's going to be the linchpin of everything where Flashpoint is going to reset everything. And I just, without even knowing who is Superman, without knowing who is going to be, is the Robert Pattinson Batman going to be part of this? There's just so many murky things to me that
because
it's just a lot of uncertainty.
And there were hard lines before, right? Pattinson's a great example where that was its own thing. They've said repeatedly it's its own thing in its own time, its own universe, its own place.
Same with Joker.
Yeah, right. And they've done both of those films did really well, especially Joker. And so then it becomes weirdly nebulous all of a sudden when there's new management. What becomes management dictation over letting creatives kind of work their way. If everything is hinging on the Flash movie. And I think Zablov said something about they've seen Shazam and Aquaman and the Flash, and they liked all of them, and they're excited where that's going. Good. So maybe it just means that their 10-year plan kind of just starts with the Flash and moves forward. But instead of just, maybe their 10-year plan is just bridging back to another Justice League movie, and that wasn't the intention before.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully in 2 years when Joker 2 is out, hopefully we'll have a better road.
I hope so.
Roadmap
2 years, like I've been waiting for Black Adam. What feels like since The Rock was still wrestling, and now like whatever. Yeah, it'll come when it comes.
You know what's crazy? I saw a screenshot of the announcement of Black Adam, and The Rock was like 100 pounds lighter. Like he had hair, like he looked like a different person. And in the back of my mind, I always had that where I was like, when is that Black Adam movie going to come out? And we just weren't hearing anything about it. So I thought it was dead. I thought it wasn't going to happen.
I think he personally really fought for it to happen. It probably would have died if it wasn't for him. So usually that's kind of been my take on it for a while. And so, but you know what?
Yeah.
All that time, he's only just gotten better as being Dwayne Johnson, right? Being an actor, whatever. So like, I didn't really want to see Scorpion King Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam, but who he is now, sure. Like, yeah, he's had a lot of experience under his belt now.
And think about how comic book movies have matured from 2013 till 2024, 2022, 2023. It's also interesting to see that just the whole industry change from that standpoint as well. Mm-hmm. And you know what this actually reminded me of? So today, as we record this, The Sandman came out on Netflix, all 10 episodes of The Sandman. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was originally attached to a Sandman movie going back to 2013. So he dropped off in 2016, and I was just kind of doing some research before, because I was thinking like, whatever happened to Joseph Gordon-Levitt? Because I remember hearing about it, but I forgot exactly what the details were. So I went back and looked it up. 2016, Joseph Gordon-Levitt disagreed with the then management that came in, very similar to what Discovery's doing. They came in and told Warner Brothers and kind of was shaping the direction. And he said, no, this is not what I want out of a Sandman project. So I'm going to let those guys do their thing and I'm going to step back from it. And I was just like, man, it's crazy that Warner Brothers, it just keeps on happening. And there's no Kevin Feige. There's no guiding force for Warner Brothers right now, like telling them this is the way it's going to be. And all of our movies are going to fall in line versus how it had always been when we grew up, where it was the Michael Keaton Batman is over here, the Christopher Reeve Superman is over here, and everything, nothing connects. So
technically they have Walter Hamada because he's the president of DC Films, right? And so they do have somebody who almost quit today. Apparently that was in the news cycle too, because
I saw that.
Nobody told him that they were pulling Batgirl off the release schedule. So just as like a general basic like leadership idea, like communication is apparently not very good. at Warner Brothers Discovery, just like really basic stuff like cast and crew. I do not agree with not telling them, but like I feel like the guy in charge should know from like just his boss what's happening. Like it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. And I don't know. You're right though. It just like it keeps happening. But like going back to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like whoever like said like, oh well, they're making Sandman, that's a DC property, so we should include that in like the 10-year plan or whatever. But like, if you like, do you know what it is before you even decide to like do that? Which is where the Feige thing comes in. Like, at least he knows what properties like fit inside, and he doesn't just give people what they're asking for either, right? People have been wondering where Spider-Man and the X-Men are and like all the, whatever. And he's like, or Fantastic Four, whatever. He's like, when the time is right, they will appear. Like the end. Like that, that's it.
And look at those properties before. Right. And not only DC, but even Marvel, when they sold off all of their properties to, when they were going bankrupt and Universal got a piece and Sony got a piece and all these people.
Merrill Lynch.
And it was like, nobody knew what to do with these characters, and the movies weren't great. And so once we got everything under Marvel and that was like, there was a unifying force, then it was like the result and the product was much better. So hopefully we can get that out of DC.
It's true.
Now,
to be fair, a lot of the X-Men Fox movies are good, and the vast majority, half of the Sony Spider-Man movies are good. I want to say the vast majority. That's like, that's too much. Yeah. So like there were good movies previous to Marvel Studios, but they were also all produced or at least worked on by Kevin Feige, because he was on that very first X-Men movie. Right. So like the Marvel movies have always had Kevin Feige, from what we would say the modern inception of the comic book movie with X-Men, Count Blade maybe, and then like moving all the way up, like Kevin's always been there, and DC has never had that.
Yeah, and I was hoping it would be Jeff Johns, but as we've seen, it just hasn't. Under his tutelage, it didn't come together. And then even when Jim Lee took over as head of DC, it was like, it just, nothing has come of, having just one vision or one person so far. So hopefully we can get the right guys in there. Now, did you see this HBO Max Discovery Plus merger that's going to happen between these streaming services?
Yep, I did see that. I also saw bits of their presentation where it was like HBO is male centric and Discovery Plus is female centric, and people are like, "Is
that was weird?"
It's weird. It's kind of weird now.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like certain properties, certain types of shows have larger male or female audiences, and I feel like maybe that's what they were just talking about. Like, but it's like, are you saying that these, like, to say that HBO is like Spike TV and it, because it's not like it's not
right. And Discovery is women's life TV or something. Lifetime
TV. Genredom or something, like Home of Genredoms.
Yes, Home of Genredoms, because I have the slide up. HBO Max is Home of Fandoms, and Discovery Plus is Home of Genredoms. So they just invented a word.
They sure did. Which is whatever. You could just say genres. You don't have to say. You don't have to call it a
right.
dome.
Exactly.
Like
yeah. Somebody on Twitter pointed this out. I don't know who it was, but on the franchises card that they put up, it was like they split out. Okay, there's a Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, instead of being just like DC, and then it was Shark Week, Game of Thrones, the 90 Day Fiance universe, and then the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. So I thought that was weird that they put the Trinity up there. And I've had a problem for a long time. This is going back to the DC animated stuff, where it was they could only make Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and then Justice League movies. And we barely got Green Lantern stuff. We barely got like Flashpoint later. But especially in the early days, it was like, and I love those characters, as you know. I love Batman. I love Superman and Wonder Woman. But I love the whole DC universe. So I want every character to have their shine, their moment in the spotlight.
Yeah, I agree. And Batman's my favorite, so like great, more Batman content for me. Superman's my second favorite, so great, more Superman content for me. Like maybe, but like I'm wearing a Justice Society shirt right now. I love the Justice Society. You're wearing a Flash shirt. Like where it's not just about those three, and it's almost weird when they're like in Wonder Woman, go like. She had a show, and then she had a movie, and then another movie, and like it's just not anywhere to the same level as Batman or Superman, even to a lesser extent. Which So but it is. I can understand like not throwing up Blue Beetle and Booster Gold like DC, but there are other characters, and by not letting those other characters shine. Like you're only shooting yourself in your own foot.
Yeah. So come on, DC, give us the whole universe, because we love these characters. We love this universe. And actually, we just had a talk on the Comic Book Kaiju about mainstream characters and letting them evolve and letting them change. And you look at they allowed Nightwing to age up a little bit. but now he's kind of like locked in place, and they've allowed these other characters, but it's always with Bruce and Clark. And actually, we could talk a little bit about some change that's been going on with Clark.
We could, yeah,
coming up here. But yeah, that was just all of that stuff is interesting about HBO Max, Discovery coming in and canceling everything. And I'm just, when you look at that Comic-Con presentation, Marvel versus DC, and it was like, I felt like DC was a toddler on their tricycle, and Marvel came in on their Harley Davidson and revved up, and everybody was ready to go. And I just felt kind of sad for DC, like Shazam and Black Adam were the only things.
But what is wild is that there was other stuff out there. So obviously, like they could have shown Batgirl footage, but obviously that was that should have been a red flag, for this unprecedented event. Blue Beetle is done filming. They could have shown some Blue Beetle content. They could have shown Flash content. I know Ezra Miller is the problem child of Hollywood right now, but that movie is already made. Like, him being a weird kid or a weird guy is really not going to affect the outcome of that movie. It's just not.
Right.
Because, like, he got paid whether you release it or not. Like, that's done. So just give me the damn Flash movie so I can watch Michael Keaton return as Batman, which is probably not the reason I should be the most excited for the Flash movie. But if Ezra Miller was a better person, I'd probably be more excited for his return as the Flash. But,
my son is named Ezra, and I feel kind of bad. Like, I feel like he's given Ezra's a bad name everywhere. But
you're like, no, it's a great name. It's so old. Yeah. Like, yeah. You're a Jedi.
So,
like, no,
yes,
yeah.
Which actually, that was my inspiration, but
that'll
be another episode.
Nice.
Yeah. Actually, so real quick, little side tangent. When my wife came to me with naming options, in my head, I had two things that I wanted. I said, I want him to be able to have like a nickname, you can shorten it and have a nickname. And then also I wanted it to have like a comic book Star Wars tied to it. So we came down to Ezra and Oliver. So it was going to be
great names.
I can call him Ollie, or I can call him Oliver. And then Ezra, even though not like a traditional shortening, but I can call him E or Ez. And he had that Star Wars tied to it. So that was the one that we went with. And actually, if we have another Oliver, if we have another boy, Oliver will be his name.
That's great.
So
I love that. See, but those are great. Yeah. Those are great names. I also had that mandate but it was in my head. Like, how can I make this work? My daughter's name is Eloise. And so I was like, which is not a superhero name or anything necessarily. It's a riff on a family name. But like, if you look at the name, you can extract Lois out from it. And the beginning of it is L. So you get Superman and Lois in the same name.
Nice.
That's just almost for me, like, because we don't even call her L or Lois. We call her Wheezy. Like, we don't even call her Eloise. So,
nice. Actually, that actually has another tie. So Louise Simonson had a long run at tenure at Marvel, and they called her Wheezy. So that also is another.
That's good. I like that. That's good. Hey, that's even better.
So yeah. The Gannon and Vactor households are full of comic ties. I think that's the takeaway from this episode. So yeah, that was the big news that came out this week that I wanted to talk about. I also wanted to talk to Mr. Gannon about what we've currently been reading or even kind of watching. The Harley Quinn show. If you're not watching Harley Quinn on HBO Max, you need to change that right now, because that, I would say, is my favorite show on TV right now. It's not animated. I mean, whether it's animated or live action, it's like, it's just hands down my favorite show on TV. Every episode makes me laugh from start to finish. So I am completely caught up on Harley Quinn. Paper Girls came out, which is based on the Brian K. Vaughan comic book, which I love. And then, like I said, today the Sandman came out, so I wanted to get caught up on that. Is there anything comic wise that you've been enjoying recently besides the Green Lantern movie?
Well, I am also watching Harley Quinn, and I agree. It's like a must watch on the day of. I'm caught up. Like it's just
yes,
yeah. It's
the Court of Owls. I was laughing so hard.
No, obviously it parodies and spoofs everything, but like it, when it's. I don't want to spoil it, but like when it's revealed, like what their like actual intention is, in my mind, I was like, this makes sense. This is probably actually what they would do. Like this is comics are PG-13. Harley is definitely R, and I feel like that's more real. That was more real to me than anything that they put out there. So yeah, no, I love that. I also want to watch Sandman. I gotta catch up to that. This is not strictly comic related, but they have made comics of it. But Prey also came out as recording this, the new Predator movie. Yes. I watched about 5 minutes of it before recording this episode. It's very pretty. That's as far as I got.
Okay,
looks good. Cool. Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, very interesting. Also, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie came out on Netflix.
Yeah,
I want to check that out.
That got announced today too.
The Lego Star Wars Block Party came out on Disney Plus, so I also want to get to that. I have not had a chance to.
There's
watch
also
that
a
one
Weird
yet.
Al parody music video that goes along with that, and that I don't think Weird Al has not parodied Star Wars since Episode 1. So I am.
Yeah,
that was the first Weird Al song I ever heard. Was "The Saga Begins." So
nice.
Yeah,
nice.
So I'm on board for that too. Yeah, so there's tons. I mean, there's tons of content out there. You can barely keep up with it all because there was like a week or a week and a half where there was nothing, and so now I'm like, I feel like I'm racing to the finish line to watch all these things.
Yeah, and August is crazy. She-Hulk is coming out in 2 weeks. I'm very excited for that. Which did you watch the teaser trailer that came out?
I did
during Comic-Con.
I did. Every bit I see more of, I'm a little more excited because I loved the comic that it's like really taking its inspiration from. I loved those runs, so I hope it's just kind of like that.
And that's what I loved about it was the tone of it. And as soon as she turned to the camera, I just put my fist in the air, and my wife was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "She's talking to the camera. She's breaking the fourth wall." So, like, that's what I want out of it. I want that light tone. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to She-Hulk when that airs. So yeah, those are the kind of TV wise stuff. As far as comic books, Mr. Gannon, I told you specifically because I was catching up on Nightwing, which, by the way, that's going to be our book of the month for the Comic Book Kaiju, Volume 1 of Nightwing. And I 100%. I did a little YouTube video on it as well. If you're interested, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can check that out on our YouTube channel. But as I was catching up on Nightwing, Jonathan Kent crossed over, and he was in it, and there was a crossover issue. And I said, "Oh, I should probably be reading Superman: Son of Kal-El," because when that came out, like I saw it, and like I told you, I got snapped away. I was gone for so long. I was thinking, for some reason, Jonathan was Christopher Kent, and I was thinking if you remember the Richard Donner,
of Zod,
yeah, that's what I was thinking he was. And so when I was reading it, I was like, wait a minute, and I had to kind of realign and readjust. And then also, they just out of nowhere, they're like, "Oh yeah, I know who he is. Like I know his identity," and they're calling him Kent. And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't know Superman's identity was out. So I was like mind blown. Like this is like what?
It was
Superman's
a lot. That's actually a lot to absorb. Like just picking up off the shelf. Superman's identity's been public for a couple years now, right? Yeah, since it was during Bendis's run. It was all about like inspiring people, blah blah blah. The Superman thing.
Yeah, I need to actually go back because I like when I actually got snapped was when Bendis started at DC. That was when I left, and so when I came back, I was like, wait a minute, all this stuff happened.
It's wild,
but
that wasn't that long. That's just a couple years. It wasn't. That's not a huge amount of time. But a lot apparently has happened in that amount of time.
Yeah. Exactly. And Tom Taylor was writing both. He wrote Nightwing and he wrote the Superman Son of Kal-El. So I got to tell you, I'm completely caught up on Son of Kal-El. I loved this book. The this character was one I was, I remember seeing him, and they had the Super Sons comic with him and Damian, and I was like, oh, okay, he's a little kid. And then all of a sudden, wait a minute, he's a teenager. Like, I missed all of that when he got aged up. So can you give me a little background, a little history of John?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So Jonathan comes from like a different universe, right? So like, because they were still reconciling the New 52. And so there was this book that came out where Superman Lois and Jonathan, who were like the original prime Superman Lois, had a kid named, and they called him Jonathan, and they somehow magically appeared in this new rebooted DC universe, and they like kept a low profile and all this stuff. And then like a bunch of stuff happened in which the New 52 Superman like magically disappeared, as people do in comics. Like that was like a thing where they both existed, and then they like merged together to form the ultimate regular Superman that we know. And so, but then like other crises happened, like the Doomsday Clock happened and all that stuff. So right. So between Doomsday Clock happening and Dark Multiverse happening, not Dark Multiverse, was it Dark Multiverse?
Dark Knight's Metal.
Yeah. All that stuff kind of coming out, and like the DC rule is now that everything in comics has ever been published actually happened. Like, and so, and like, but it comes in flashes from what they like remember and what they don't remember. And just because they just know they live in a universe where time is just kind of flubby and things change and whatever. And they all just kind of roll with it now, and they just kind of just move on, and it's whatever. And so Jonathan was the kid. He was about 10 for a while, best friends with Damian. And then, when Bendis started writing, he reintroduced Jor-El, who is still alive, Superman's father, right? And he's like not a great person to find. Not the Jor-El, not the kind of saintly god figure that we love. He's not a terrible person. He's just
kind of like the Smallville Jor-El.
Yeah, it's a lot like the Smallville Jor-El. That's a great comparison. Okay. He's a lot like that one. And so basically he like a lot of adventures, whatever else. And so his thing was like, I'm going to go to space and I'm going to take Jonathan and Lois with me. Superman's going to stay here. And while in space, adventures happen and Jonathan ages up and he like comes back. He comes back 17, 18 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. Truthfully, it wasn't great. Like aging him up, I wasn't really on board with it for a long time, because then Jonathan went off to join the Legion of Superheroes, which is another book that Bendis is writing, and like more adventures happened there, and that was okay. But it really wasn't until Superman goes off to Warworld. He's like, I gotta go free these ancient Kryptonians that are trapped on Warworld, which is the Action Comic story that's going on right now. Superman's losing his powers a bit, so that's why he's got the gray temples and stuff. He's like, his powers are diminishing, based off of a story, like another story that happened where they're not gone.
And who's writing that?
Philip Kennedy Johnson is writing Action, which is great. I do recommend this new Action.
I need
book
to,
that's coming out. Yeah, he's basically there with the Authority. He took a bunch of people. So he took Midnighter and Apollo, Natasha Irons. He didn't take Constantine with him. He took some magician. He took Enchantress. It was a weird mishmash of people, but they're off trying to free Warworld. They're doing like a Ben-Hur Spartacus thing. Actually, you know what? It's more like John Carter of Mars. That's exactly like what it is. Like, you've probably seen the images of him in like the arena with the chest plate and the gladiator outfit. So they're kind of going full like slavery, rebellion, Gladiator meets John Carter meets Superman kind of thing.
Okay. That kind of reminds me of World War Hulk too, of that, like the
yes,
Gladiator.
it's like a little. It's similar to that in a lot of ways.
Okay.
It's been great.
Gotcha.
It's been really good.
And that's action.
That's action. Yeah. And
okay.
so
Got it.
So like Superman knew that he was going, so it was all about, all right, Jonathan, so now it's time for you to kind of step up and be Superman. Like, you're no longer Superboy. There needs to be a Superman for Earth. And so, as you know, you read Son of Kal-El. It's all about him trying to figure out what is his version of Superman.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been good. I don't love the book, truthfully. I like the character. It took until Tom Taylor to get a hold of him, and like especially his interactions with Nightwing, his stuff in Dark Crisis, like that stuff. I'm like, even Future State, Jonathan. Like I am like to an extent, like I like his youthful Gen Z version of Superman. Like, how would this work? And so, but yeah, it's been okay. Was that a good enough history lesson?
Yeah, excellent. All of our listeners right now are going out and purchasing all of the books that you talked about. I very much applaud your recap. So I was very interested to check out more from Tom Taylor because everything that he's been writing. Like I said, that Nightwing is my favorite, probably my favorite book of this year.
Mm-hmm. It's out
and last year.
I don't read every issue right away because I get comics every Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on the company and whatever. And some will be like, I'll wait for that one to build a bit to let it go. But I am reading his books that day, that next day, if I can help it, because I don't want them ruined or spoiled for me on the internet. And I just really like his writing. It's so organic. And he does this wonderful thing where he actually makes characters where, like that's distinctly Dick Grayson to me. That's distinctly Barbara Gordon. That is distinctly Jonathan Kent. That's distinctly Superman. Yes. That's Lois, like whatever. And not everybody, sadly, that's really hard, to have all those characters' voices and be able to balance them.
Right.
So it's good.
100%. Yeah. And the essence of his character, Jonathan, it feels like it's very much like a combination to me of Peter Parker and Clark Kent. There's that sense of responsibility, and they want to help out everyone in the world. They don't want anyone to go to hurt or to lack. So I really did kind of fall in love with his character in the Son of Kal-El book. I didn't like him in other books or if anything that I had seen before. Seeing how he's trying to fit in without having first he tried to have a secret identity, and then trying to just kind of get his footing and his balance. And he's got his father's reputation, that kind of cloud of, I have to live up to my dad. My dad's Superman, and I have to live up to this. So I'm very much enjoyed that. Actually, I am caught up on it. So I was going to say the first volume, but I'm completely caught up on Son of Kal-El, and very interesting stuff. What they're doing with his character and Superman in general.
Yeah. What I think I
because it's kind of like
sorry. Go ahead. You can go first.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say real quick. It's kind of like the Miles Morales thing in Spider-Man, where it's, oh, you're not Miles Morales, you are Spider-Man. And it's like the same thing with Superman. Like, you are Superman. Like, you're not Superman's son, you are Superman. So correct. That title, like,
it means a lot.
It has weight to it.
And what I think both Tom Taylor and Philip Kennedy Johnson are doing really well is that they are letting other characters work off of that and build, like, Jonathan along with that. Like, there is the sense of respect for Jonathan and the Superman moniker, the S shield, like, in a way that not every, like, just because they have an S on their chest doesn't mean that they have that, that aura, that ability. But like when Jonathan shows up, it's a big deal. Like, they rely on him in a way. And what I like about Jonathan, especially in this like 17, 18-year-old, however he's supposed to be, like he's kind. Like, and I think like that's what I love about Superman so much is that he's a kind person.
Yes.
And that, you know, like he's give you the cape off his back just as much as he will, like, you know, pick up the building for you or save the cat from the tree or destroy the alien ship, whatever needs to be done. And Jonathan follows suit with that, but in his own way, it is distinctly different from his father. But they're still they just radiate goodness. And I think that the writing and the art both lend itself to that really well. And some really cool moments. I don't know if you're reading Dark Crisis yet, but this
yes,
the second issue of Dark Crisis has like an amazing Jonathan moment where, like, you know, like character's going to get it and Jonathan shows up, and it's just like watching like Clark or Superman show up, and it's just like it's like a cheer moment in the same way, and it's like it made me really realize that like, wow, I really actually do care about him as a character, and I'm like excited that he's here. So it's good.
Yeah, so I'm going to continue with that. John Timms is the artist. I guess he did the art on Infinite Frontier as well.
He was on Harley Quinn he was on Harley Quinn for a long time.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Have you read any of Deceased, also by Tom Taylor?
Yeah, I love Deceased. It's great fun. Yeah. They're DC's like We're Fighting Monsters books are stellar. They're like low key so enjoyable. The Deceased, which is zombies, DC versus vampires, is great.
Yes, I have been reading that
fun.
one. Yes.
Yeah, it's so fun. Anything Tom Taylor writes, I turned on to him because he was writing the Injustice comic, which like
yes.
I don't love Injustice. I don't love Evil Superman or anything like that, but he is some of the greatest character comic book moments are like come from him. Like he really nails the DC universe. He just understands how they all work and operate and who they are individually.
Did you read any of Dark Knights of Steel?
Yeah, I'm as caught up as I can be on Dark Knights of Steel right now.
Okay.
Which is also very good.
I need to get to that one.
I am enjoying that one. That one is one I can let a few issues build because there's a lot of politics involved, and so it like I just kind of like I don't want to forget things, so it's easier to let them build. It kind of reminds me of what was that Neil Gaiman Marvel book in Elizabethan England?
Oh, the 16...
Yeah, I couldn't remember the number. Yeah, 16 something. It's like, of course, I'm looking at my comic shelf, like over on the other side of the computer, but like there's
1602.
1602. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. It's got that like,
okay.
You know, like this character is the Inquisition or whatever, but they're all made
up yes.
Yeah, but instead of it being Elizabethan
like King
England,
Arthur.
Yeah, exactly. It's made up kingdoms, but it's got some fun.
Gotcha.
Fun twists, good characters.
Okay, yeah, I'll check that out for sure. Everything that Tom Taylor has done. Also, I always get confused with Tom King, who I also love, but
you and the rest of the internet, yeah. Yeah. Well, I love both of them. Very so different, but yeah, they are. Yeah, they're both excellent writers.
They've both been knocking out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Well, excellent, Mr. Gannon. I think that's going to bring this episode of, we're going to call this, like I said, this is a crossover episode. We're going to call this Beer with Kaiju, the Comic Book Kaiju and Beer with Geeks crossover. I think part 1 has been a success, and we need to get Mr. Ramblings in here on a future episode.
We'll get him.
But thank you very much for joining me, Tim.
Thank you for having me. Like we said at the beginning, like, you know, it's been 12 years since we, you know, first started podcasting together, and it's like we never stopped. That's been great. So thanks for having me.
Yes, pleasure. And everyone who is listening to this, go check out the Patreon for Thought Bubble Audio, which is how do you call it? The production company or the
I guess it's our network,
podcast?
Our production company.
Yeah.
I like production company. That's a nice way of putting it. So we have a number of shows under that banner from Frank Ramblings and myself and a bunch of other people. So we've been fortunate to be successful. So Patreon is a big part of that.
And there's a nice back catalog of episodes and shows that you and Frank have done together. I've enjoyed everything you two have put out. So continue to do good work, my friend, and I will continue to support you. And we will also, our listeners will support you as well. Don't forget, this episode of the Comic Book Kaiju is part of the Geeks, So to Speak podcast network, including the Sandbox Gamers, which is our video game podcast, Technological, which is our Star Trek podcast, which we've had Frank ramblings. We need to schedule a Tim Gannon episode of Technological.
Oh, I'll be there.
Are you watching Lower Decks?
I am watching Lower Decks.
Okay.
Yeah. About halfway through season 2 and very much anticipating season 3.
Yes. Okay. You know what? We're on a hiatus right now because Schaff, our other host, has relocated to the Pacific Northwest. But when we come back, our plan is for Lower Decks. So perhaps you can join us for those. We will off air. We will talk about that.
Okay.
Geeks, So to Speak, our Geek News podcast, which has 200 episodes. You can go listen to all the back catalog. All of those are on the geeksotospeak.com/network or /podcast. Sorry. No, it is /network. I'm sorry. geeksotospeak.com/network. Then you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are just CBK Pod, which is Comic Book Kaiju. Thank you very much for listening to us. If you're watching on YouTube right now, not only is this Tim Gannon's first YouTube video?
It is my first YouTube video, actually. Yeah.
So, yeah. If you enjoy not only the dulcet tones of Tim Gannon, but the pleasurable viewing experience, please leave us a comment down below and let us know what you thought about all of the DC stuff that we talked about on this episode. You can like us. Also, click that notification bell for all of the new episodes that come out on the Comic Book Kaiju. I'm trying to put out as much content as possible. I'm actually putting out daily short form content in the form of YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and TikTok. I got to remember all of them, but I'm trying to put out as much comic book news and info as possible. I did a little character spotlight on the Joker this morning. So if anybody is interested, go check that out.
I love those reels. I told you that off air, but those reels are great. They're bite-sized nuggets of goodness.
Thank you very much. So yes, thank you very much for joining us, Tim. And like I said, everyone out there, if you're listening right now, definitely subscribe to Beer with Geeks. If you're not subscribed, check them out, beerwithgeeks.com, Thought Bubble Audio, all the things you can subscribe to. And I want to let everybody know that Tim Gannon loves comics, and you should too.